Scrubbing today's much-anticipated launch of the Starliner space capsule.
This was an automated hold. It was generated by a computer analyzing the very dynamic conditions on that Atlas V rocket in the minutes before launch. Super cold liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen used as the oxidizer and the propellant in this launch. They have to be under absolutely perfect conditions, and if anything goes wrong, even a software glitch, that computer shuts it down. And so the launch is on hold. Engineers are now trying to get to the bottom of exactly what spooked the computer, what went wrong to cause this automated trigger.
That's Fox's Jonathan Seri at Cape Canaveral. The New York City Police Department boosting security for tomorrow's Israel Day parade in Manhattan. An internal NYPD memo warning about a potential threat given the war between Israel and Hamas. Officials also say they are not tracking any specific or credible threats. The extra caution comes as anti-Israel protests have rocked the Big Apple over the past several months, including at major events such as the Thanksgiving Day parade. America is listening to Fox News.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday. Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you.
Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
It's time to take the quiz.
5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to The Quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
Now that
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
A woman found shot. I'm Wes Woodward, and here's what's trending this hour. Indy Metro Police found a woman shot dead inside a home on Indianapolis's northwest side Saturday morning. That was at a house on the 3000 block of Armory Lane near West 30th Street and North White River Parkway. Officers have detained a person of interest. IMPD also investigating after an officer exchanged gunfire with a suspect in downtown Indy early Saturday morning. Around 3:20 a.m., officers patrolling near Georgia and Meridian Streets heard gunshots and soon found a person, and after engaging that person in conversation, an officer fired their weapon. A short vehicle chase followed, eventually ending in a crash a short distance away on Northeast Street.
There was a firearm located at the scene, and those 2 suspects are detained at this time. We do not believe that there's ongoing threat to the community at this time.
That's Officer Tommy Thompson with IMPD. IMPD says no officers or suspects were injured in the shooting. John Herrick reports on how Charlie Brown's and Speedway touched the life of Hall of Fame motorsports journalist Robin Miller.
There's now a Robin Miller room inside Charlie Brown's. It was dedicated on Friday. Miller spent a lot of time in that restaurant, so they helped him out when times got tough.
And when Robin was very ill and in the hospital, they even sent him his favorite pie, his grilled cheese sandwich, and his Pepsi to the hospital.
Miller died in 2021 at the age of 71. Miller's sister Diane Zachary says while you eat in the Robin Miller room, there's all kinds of racing memorabilia in there for you to enjoy. John Herrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
I'm Wes Woodward, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's your forecast in the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, rain likely early on, still some light sprinkles lingering around through the early morning hours. And for Sunday, clouds will decrease, giving us some sunshine, but an isolated chance at a couple pop-up showers in the afternoon. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
In high school sports, it's fun making big plays, facing off against your school's rival, and winning games.
But behind those exciting moments is a lot of hard work, perseverance, and mental toughness. I'm Kate Garden from Wawasee High School.
And I'm Claire Hack from Jennings County High School. High school sports help student athletes develop the mindset we need to face life's challenges, be resilient, and embrace the uncomfortable.
We learn that overcoming adversity is how we grow, and by leaning into challenges, we develop courage and integrity.
We discover there are no shortcuts to success, and that it only comes when preparation meets opportunity.
Behind all the fun and excitement of playing, we are growing as people and learning powerful life lessons through high school sports.
I am IHSAA Commissioner Paul Neidig. Support the second classer by buying a ticket to your school's athletic events. Thank you for being a champion of high school sports. This is developing resilience. This is conquering challenges. This is your IHSAA.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled that you're with us. Had a day off last Saturday with the continuous race coverage here on WIBC. And listen, we're almost a week past the race, but I always have to say, I don't think there's any greater broadcast out there than what we hear through WIBC when they're broadcasting the Indianapolis 500. It's just absolutely fantastic, and it's a lot of fun. And it's something that I've always really enjoyed. And we sat around at my house and listened to the race. And it's thrilling. I mean, obviously it was a great finish, and obviously a lot of people enjoyed the competitiveness of the race. You start talking about a change in the lead going into turn 3 on the final lap, but listen to that broadcast that our partners here put on and broadcast by WIBC. I was just thrilled. I was proud. It's fun to be working at a place that can put on that kind of a broadcast. It was neat. It was fun. And so I missed having a show on Saturday. They were running Heroes of the 500, and so we didn't have a show. But, hey, we'll make up for it. We got a lot to get into. Want to take your calls throughout the show, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. Obviously, an awful lot of people, and me included, have been talking about the verdict in the Trump case in New York. It was overseen by a judge that clearly has a political agenda and pursued by a district attorney who openly, defiantly says he has a political agenda in a place where, getting a fair jury is going to be tough. And I've seen an awful lot of misstatements, as somebody who tries jury trials and has been through the process. There's a lot of misinformation out there about how the whole system works. And listen, you're getting a lot of commentary from a lot of sources about the Trump trial, and you don't turn into the Gun Guy Show necessarily to hear those same discussions. At the same time, it does bring to bear a very interesting issue and a legal issue that's likely to change or at least be re-examined, if not changed, here in the near future, which is the question of, right now, can our former commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, formerly commander-in-chief of the military here in the United States, as of right now, this moment, can he legally possess a firearm? All right, from 2016 to 2020, he was in control of the greatest military in the history of the world. Right now, can that same individual possess a firearm? The answer is legally. The answer right now is no. And why is that? And if that disgusts you, if that upsets you, I apologize, but I can explain the law to you and why that's a correct statement. And that is, federal law says that if you have a conviction for a crime punishable in terms of the maximum possible sentence, punishable by over a year, that prohibits you from possessing a firearm. And it doesn't matter what kind of crime that is. For instance, a lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation out there on social media, out there on the internet. People say, oh, if you have a non-violent felony, you can possess a gun. Well, that's hogwash. Under federal law, if you have any felony conviction, and a felony is typically, in most states, defined as a crime for which the maximum sentence exceeds 1 year. And by the way, shout out here quickly to the great group I had in my Essentials of Indiana gun law class. This was a class for the Armed Women of America. It was at a Parabellum in Avon. We had a full group, man. It was sold out, and it was great to see. Good group. A lot of interest, a lot of questions. It was just a lot of fun. But we talked about this at length right there in the class, which is there are a lot of different ways that you can be prohibited from possessing a firearm in this country. And a lot of these laws, particularly at the federal level, that make you what we call a prohibited possessor, are being re-examined in the courts in light of recent decisions from the Supreme Court. And we're expecting a decision pretty much any day from the U.S. Supreme Court on an issue of one particular statute that says, it's actually a subsection of a statute that says people subject to a domestic violence order of protection cannot possess a firearm. Separately, in a different subsection of exactly the same statute, it says if you have a conviction for a crime punishable by over a year, you can't possess a gun. And typically that means a felony. President Trump, as we speak, right here, right now, has been indicted on, or not just indicted, convicted of several different felonies on 34 separate counts. Now, people are going to say, well, hold on, he's going to appeal it. That's very true. Hold on, he can have it set aside on appeal. That's very true. It's very likely that the case will be overturned on appeal. Also very true. It doesn't change the fact that as of right now, in one particular court, in one particular state, he has multiple felony convictions. Or you can phrase it, a felony conviction with 34 counts. That means under federal law, he cannot possess a firearm. And it's fascinating to me to think about it. And listen, I share all of your frustration in terms of how corrupt this whole process was. But that's not what we're discussing right now. As unfair, as corrupt, as likely to be overturned on appeal. All true. Doesn't change the point I'm making, which is that with felony convictions for a crime punishable by over a year, you cannot possess a firearm. Now, is that likely to change in the Supreme Court here sooner than later? There's a very distinct possibility of that. There are cases right now pending before the Supreme Court that deal again with these different provisions of federal law, and a lot of this is within what we call the Brady Bill. You want to look it up, it's 18 USC. USC stands for U.S. Code, 18 USC 922G. And 922G has a whole bunch of subsections to it. And they define a whole different list of people that are prohibited from possessing firearms. A different subsection of that same statute is the law being used to prosecute Hunter Biden. And I'll talk more about that here in just a moment. But one of the very first subsections of that statute says a person convicted of a felony or a crime punishable by over a year cannot possess a firearm. What's the Supreme Court likely to do with that? How can that change on this issue? That's what we'll get into when we come back. We'll also go to the phone lines. We've had some people call in. We'll go to the phone lines also when we come back. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Okay, so you ever go into Cracker Barrel and think,
who are the old-timey photos? That's a great question. They're just a stock of some Cracker Barrel warehouse where it's like
We have 93 photos of Maud from Santa Fe, New Mexico, sitting on a porch.
Right, store 78 needs something in the left wing. Ship it out.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIPC and WIPC.com.
Guy Relford for Indiana Gun Club. You know, Indiana Gun Club is Indy's premier shotgun club, located in Fortville, just minutes from Indy. They've got over 2,000 guns in inventory. They've got a great clubhouse and a great selection of shotguns, pistols, and rifles. You can go out there and shoot sporting clays. They have loaner guns available. They have lessons available if you've never shot sporting clays. I'm a huge fan because that's where I learned to shoot sporting clays. You can check out more details at indianagunclub.com or give them a call at 317-485-6540. They can run your tournament. They can run your corporate event, your fundraiser. There are a whole lot of different events they can host out there, and they have a wonderful chef that will prepare a spread like you won't believe. I've eaten out there many times at different events. Gordon Gamilla, my friend, is their events coordinator. He's been a guest right here on the show. They just do a fabulous event. You can contact them again at 317-485-6540. That's 317-485-6540, or check them out at indianagunclub.com. Coming up in August, not too far away, in August, I believe it's August 17th, they're having their fundraiser event for Pheasants Forever. You know, I've long said that hunters are the greatest conservationists out there, and they absolutely are, and Pheasants Forever is a great group to help fund habitat and the preservation of pheasant hunting here in the U.S. They do a fabulous job, and Indiana Gun Club puts on a great fundraiser for them. You can, again, find more details at indianagunclub.com. It's my friends in Fortville, Indiana Gun Club.
Hammer and Nigel here. Hammer, this is actually pretty amazing. If you could get a 15% upfront bonus on your money and a competitive return that's averaged 7% a year for the past 10 years, what would you say?
Abso-freaking-lutely. And that's what Bill Demery can offer you right now. A 15% upfront bonus when you invest your money. And what I love about Bill Demery, I've met with him. He can explain this stuff in a way that I can understand. He breaks it down, and it's so easy, Nige.
You know, there's a lot of advisors on this station, but we only put our name on one advisor that we trust, both of us, and that's Bill Demery, your retirement guy.
Help take care of your hard-earned money and reach out to Bill Demery right now. 317-648-5120. Ask about the 15% upfront bonus. 317-648-5120. Past performance is no guarantee of future returns.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See the best in sporting, hunting, and personal protection gear, plus great displays of Americana. Come see us this weekend at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, Friday 2 to 7, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday 9 to 4. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See you there.
Hey, Pat Sullivan here, letting you know that when you need plumbing help, call who I call, my friends at Hope Plumbing. Not only are they experts in their field who respect the true value of customer service, they also love giving back to this community, which is evident in their referral program. If you refer a friend, Hope Plumbing will give you a $50 gift card to a local restaurant. Great plumbing and supporting local restaurants. What more could you ask for? Visit hopeplumbing.com or give them a call at 641-HOPE.
Go with your gut. Your dog's immune system is based in the gut. A diet lacking in nutrients can cause itching, scratching, and a weak immune system. However, there is a solution. DINOVITE. Dinovite.
It took a grand total of 2 weeks. The dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go.
The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Smokey the Bear.
Then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful, it's the least that you can do.
What you desire, don't play with matches, don't play with fire.
After 80 years of learning his wildfire prevention tips, Smokey Bear lives within us all. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com. And remember,
Only you can prevent wildfires.
brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Heat and cool your man cave, attic, garage, or bonus room without adding ductwork with Mitsubishi Electric ductless mini splits.
To find out more, just go to absolutecomfort.org.
Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. So I'll tell you what, before we get more into the discussion of what we expect to see from the Supreme Court, let's go to the phone lines. And we've had a couple of people call in. We got Anthony. Anthony, welcome to the Gun Guy Show, buddy. What do you got for us?
Yeah, good afternoon. Hope you're doing well.
And to you, sir.
A friend of mine, and I'm serious about it, this is a friend of mine. He's deadly afraid to call in. He received this questionnaire for a specific case that he's been called for jury duty for.
Okay.
And it reads like an interrogatory. They want all sorts of information, gun information, whether or not he owns any. If he does, specific information about what they are, how long he's owned them, where he stores them, and if he has an LTCH and what the number on the LTCH is. I mean, it's incredible. I told him to object to it, but he's afraid to because he thinks the judge will throw him in jail for contempt if he doesn't answer all the questions. What can they legally ask?
Well, that's really interesting because typically the way that works is there's a jury questionnaire that goes out as part of a request for jurors to come. But typically that just has identifying information, things like what you do for a living, how old you are, how far you live from the courthouse, issues like that. And it doesn't get into any kind of detail of the case or any kind of specific information. And most of the time, the information that you're talking about, which can very likely come up during the jury selection process, what we call voir dire, which is French, interestingly enough, to tell the truth. But during the jury selection process, the lawyers can get into a lot of information to try to determine what prejudices people might have, what preconceptions, how likely they are to be fair and impartial as jurors. And that's where that information typically comes in. It's really rare to see a jury questionnaire that goes out in the mail with all that information on it. To answer your question, if someone were to mark, for instance, I don't choose to answer these questions, or I don't choose to disclose this information on this form, but I'd be happy to answer these questions in court if and when I'm called as a juror. And I don't know that there'd be any particular legal ramifications for that. I can't imagine a judge, sending somebody out to arrest them, to hold them in contempt or some issue like that. I can't imagine that ever happening. That's a little offensive to me, that I would just get that in the mail requiring me to things, for instance, to disclose the number of my, the license number on my license to carry a handgun. Like, oh, hell no. What the hell is that? It's going to be some public records in a courthouse somewhere. And that all is held confidentially by the Indiana State Police, by the way. They don't release that information. So there's something a little off there to me in terms of this whole process. And even in jury selection, asking you about, do you have a license? Do you carry a gun? How many guns do you own? That may very much be fair game if that's all germane to determining whether someone can be a fair and impartial juror. But asking them their LTCH license number, that doesn't give anybody any valid information unless they think they can just turn around and confirm somehow whether they're lying that they have a license. But even then, they're going to contact the state police and say, "Can you tell me if this person holds this particular number with this license with this number on it?" That doesn't make any sense to me either. So, and I'm sure you're telling me the straight scoop and being sincere in your question, but that very much sounds off to me, and I think something a little odd is going on, given the level of detail they want him to fill out in a jury questionnaire. That's really unusual. Usually jury questionnaires is just very superficial information. It can be very helpful. It can tell, the lawyers what you do for a living, how old you are, basically where you live, and some of those issues, because the lawyers, if they're doing their job, have put a lot of thought into what kind of jurors they do and don't want on the jury. But that kind of level of detail is really unusual. Let's go back to the phone lines, and Jennifer has called in. Jennifer, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I'm calling because of we're moving my father into a new living situation, so we're emptying his house. And when doing so, found 2 shotguns. Asked him about them. He said, "Oh, yeah, I got those when I cleaned out my father's house." That was over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so now I have these 2 shotguns, and I don't know what to do with them.
Well, I mean, there's no legal requirements if they're typical shotguns, meaning, for instance, like they have a barrel over 18 inches. If it's a short-barreled shotgun with a barrel under 18 inches, that's a whole different process. It's called a short-barreled shotgun, or what some people call a sawed-off shotgun, and there are restrictions on owning those or transferring them. But a typical shotgun, it's got a barrel over 18 inches. There are no particular restrictions on keeping that, on transferring it. If you wanted to sell them, you could do that. You just can't knowingly transfer the guns to someone you know to be ineligible to purchase their own gun from a dealer. You can't knowingly, transfer them to a felon or something along those lines. But otherwise, there are no real restrictions, and you can keep them, you can sell them. If they're that old, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you're choosing to either sell them or keep them. Wouldn't be a bad idea at all to take them to a gunsmith. I would have someone knowledgeable make sure they're clear, meaning they're unloaded and safe to handle. But yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea if they've been just sitting around that long. Who knows? They might be rusted, or they might have other issues going on. Springs may be bad. You just don't know, depending on the kind of shotgun and what kind of conditions they've been stored in. So it might be a really good idea to take them to a gunsmith and have them examined and determined to be, safe to fire, safe to handle. And at that point, you can do with them pretty much what you want. You just can't transfer them to someone who you know to be ineligible to possess a firearm. It's really the only restriction. Let's get back into the discussion here somewhat briefly before we take a break at the bottom of the hour. But the Donald Trump situation, again, is as disgusting as this is, that he's been convicted in this, what a lot of people, I think, legitimately calling a sham trial in New York, that our former commander-in-chief, and some would say very likely future commander-in-chief again, cannot possess a firearm right now. But what's the Supreme Court likely to do with this? And listen, this is totally apart from the likelihood that Donald Trump will get a reversal of his convictions on appeal. Will that likely happen? Sure. I think a lot of people are predicting that, given some of these rulings by the judge, given some of the jury instructions given by the judge. A lot of people have looked at this and said this just simply will not stand on appeal, even in New York, in the appellate system. And by the way, a lot of people have asked me this question is, will it go straight to the U.S. Supreme Court? How's the appeal going to work? How that works in New York, this was a conviction in state court in New York. And a lot of people, for instance, are posting things out there like the U.S. Department of Justice has been weaponized. That's absolutely true. The FBI has been weaponized. The federal courts have been weaponized. It's even a term that liberals enjoy using. I'll call it lawfare, like, a bastardization of warfare, where they're using the courts to go after their opponents. And there couldn't be a clearer example of that than with this trial of President Trump. But so, yes, it's true that the U.S. Department of Justice has been weaponized against conservatives. There's no question about that. But that doesn't necessarily apply to this case in state court in New York, because it is in state court. It's not in federal court. And because the conviction's in state court, the pattern of the appeals is it's actually in the Supreme Court of New York trial division right now. After he's sentenced, and who knows, his lawyers may try to take it up sooner than that. Typically, you can't appeal a criminal conviction until after sentencing. But his lawyers, may try to take it up quicker. But the first step in the appellate process will be the Supreme Court of New York Appellate Division. Most courts, including here in Indiana, there's the trial court, we call the Superior Court at the trial level or circuit. Then you appeal to the Indiana Court of Appeals, and if you lose there, you can ask the Indiana Supreme Court to take it. That's our highest state court here in Indiana. New York labels their courts a little differently. Their intermediate appellate court is actually their Supreme Court Appellate Division. That's where it'll go first. And whoever wins or loses there, typically when the defendant loses there, they can then seek to take it to the highest level appellate court in New York, and that's the New York Court of Appeals. So unlike any other state I'm familiar with, their highest state court is actually the Court of Appeals, not Supreme Court, which is a little different. In the federal level, for instance, the circuit courts of appeal, that's what we call them, courts of appeal. And then from there, you can go to the U.S. Supreme Court if the Supreme Court decides to take the case. But that's what's going to happen. Then if there are federal issues, including basic due process and including election interference or any number of different potential federal issues, if President Trump were to lose at that highest state court level, which is the Court of Appeals in New York, they could also potentially then try to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And yes, you can appeal decisions by a highest level state court to the Supreme Court if the jurisdictional issues are present. So that's the way that's going to go. Separate from that, and separate from the likelihood that President Trump, will win on appeal, and again, a lot of people are saying he will. What's likely to happen even in the interim at the U.S. Supreme Court level that may bear on the fact of, with a non-violent felony, again, his felonies, let's put them in quotes, because of how ridiculous that case has been, but his felonies are for falsifying business records. There's not much less violent than falsifying a business record. Under federal law right now, since that's a crime involving a potential penalty of over a year, he's prohibited from possessing a firearm. What's the Supreme Court likely to do with that? That's what we'll get into when we come back. By the way, you can give us a call, join the discussion, 317-239-9393, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Former President Donald Trump was found guilty of falsifying business records.
And sitting again. He's an innocent man targeted politically.
93 WIBC.
Sentencing set for July 11th, vowing to appeal.
Another news update is minutes away.
Someone fired their gun on I-465 near Rockville Road, hitting a man.
On the level, on the go.
Southbound 465 shut down from I-72, I-65 on the southeast side for most of June.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. The best dealers in the region will be at the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
Denny Smith here. The Memorial Day sale at Sundown Gardens continues. 20% off all container trees and shrubs at Sundown Gardens. Now's a great time to redo the landscape at your home, and Sundown Gardens has a great selection of nursery items to help you. Do you need help figuring out how to redo the landscape? Well, let the friendly nursery staff help you with your selections. Don't forget to check out the greenhouse for a great selection of summer annuals, hanging baskets, and more. Sundown Gardens, 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield, sundowngardens.com.
If your wedding anniversary is approaching, that means a visit to Barrington Jewels in Clearwater Crossing. You must see the truly one-of-a-kind creations at Barrington. You'll find exquisite and unique anniversary bands at great prices and with special financing available. Save time and effort and shop Barrington Jewels first. Consider upgrading her diamond, a truly special way to show your love. Plus Swiss and German brand sport watches. Don't wait. Get to Barrington Jewels today. And remember, you haven't seen a diamond until you've seen a Barrington diamond.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Absolute Comfort, your American Standard Mitsubishi electric ductless mini splits dealer.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. Now that he's a convicted felon, lawyers for Donald Trump are planning an appeal in his hush money trial. Defense attorney Todd Blanche on Jesse Waters, prime time.
We've been saying for over a year that we couldn't get a fair trial in Manhattan. We couldn't get a fair trial with the judge.
But many say Judge Juan Merchan was even-handed in the trial. President Biden pushing for a three-phase ceasefire plan for Gaza. Fox Foreign Affairs reporter Stephanie Bennett says the first phase would be a 6-week ceasefire.
That ceasefire would continue, hopefully, until a deal is struck. The second phase would be the return of those remaining hostages and Israel to withdraw its forces.
Phase 3, a reconstruction plan. America is listening to Fox News.
The laundry room. For as long as I can remember, this was the only place to get a good Wi-Fi connection. Until we got Xfinity. Now we have Wi-Fi all over the house. So, you're probably wondering why I'm still hanging out in here, when I could be happily streaming in the attic, basement, or literally any other room. Well, the truth is, it's warm in here. And I like the smell of dryer sheets.
Get out of here, weirdo.
Hey, close the door! You're letting cool air in.
That's wall-to-wall Wi-Fi with Xfinity. Now through June 21st, get started with 300 megabit internet for $35 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract. And get free Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
A healthy weight, more energy, and smooth, regular bowel movements. 3 things everyone strives for.
It's me, Chuck Norris. There's one really important thing we don't talk about enough: our health. Achy joints, digestive issues, weight gain, and fatigue. We're told these are normal signs of aging. So working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick.
Morning Kick is a revolutionary formula combining 10 different supplements in one. Probiotics that help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and several of the most powerful anti-aging supplements on earth. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, focused, and help manage stress.
Anybody can achieve great health regardless of their age.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com. Use code EASY or text EASY to 511-511 and claim 40% off today.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee.
Text EASY to 511-511. Morning Kick.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. So what could happen at the Supreme Court that could potentially affect our former president's current status as a prohibited possessor? Prohibited possessor meaning he's prohibited by federal law from possessing a gun because of a felony conviction. Well, there's a case pending right now. In fact, this case was argued last fall, and we've been expecting a decision really any time. There were some Supreme Court decisions that were going to be announced on Thursday of last week. And in fact, there was a very solid 9-0 unanimous decision in favor of NRA. It came out of the Supreme Court that surprised a lot of people because it was unanimous. In fact, it was authored by Justice Sotomayor, who's very much a liberal member of the court, but it was unanimous. I'll talk about that more later in the show to the extent we have time. But the Rahimi case we're expecting a decision on. And the Rahimi case I've talked about here before. I've talked about it on Hammer and Nigel on Monday Gun Day as well. But the Rahimi case involves a guy who was not convicted of a crime. In fact, that's part of the point, is that he was not convicted of a crime, but he was the subject of a domestic violence order of protection that was issued against him. And there is a provision of federal law. It's a subsection of the same law I mentioned earlier, 18 U.S.C. 922G. There's another subsection that says if you're subject to an order that prevents you from harassing, stalking, hurting, et cetera, an intimate partner or former intimate partner, it's what we call a domestic violence order of protection, you cannot possess a firearm. And what's interesting in that process is that you don't have to be convicted of any crime. And what's interesting, and I think bears directly on what we're likely to see out of the Supreme Court, is it's not even a criminal proceeding. When you go through this domestic violence order of protection process, if you're the subject of that, where someone's trying to get an order against you to restrain you from, again, harassing, stalking, hurting, or being around, being within certain distance of, et cetera, an intimate partner. An intimate partner is a defined term in the statute. Then it's a civil proceeding. And that's a big deal because it not being criminal means you don't have a lot of the due process protections that you get in a criminal case. Most importantly, in my mind, and maybe I think this is most important because I'm a lawyer, but most importantly is you don't have the right to counsel in one of these proceedings. Someone wants to get a domestic violence order of protection against you, and you can't afford a lawyer, you don't have a lawyer. You're in there trying to win that case on your own. Also, the burden of proof, what they have to prove to get that domestic violence order of protection, it's only preponderance of the evidence. That's like 50.001% of the credible evidence, just barely the majority, barely over half that the jury, or the jury in this case, there is no jury. There's a judge that has to determine whether to enter that order against you, but no right to counsel. And should you lose your constitutional rights under the Second Amendment because you've been subject to an order where you had no right to counsel, where the burden of proof is only preponderance of the evidence, that, I think, is what we hope to see as a basis for the Supreme Court's decision when they rule on the Rahimi case. Now, a concern that I've always had, if you've heard me talk about this case before, either here or on Hammer and Nigel, you've heard me express the same concern, is that Mr. Rahimi himself, the guy that had this order of protection entered against him, is not a sympathetic guy. He's not a guy you're going to want to invite over to dinner anytime soon. And by all accounts, he was a very violent guy. By all accounts, he did abuse not just the person who got the particular order of protection against him that's involved in the case, but previous women as well. There was a police report that said he actually fired a gun at a passerby who tried to intervene when he was abusing a woman in a parking lot. Now, was all that accurate? We don't know. But he was never convicted of any crime associated with those things. But at one point during the oral argument in that case, one of the justices, I want to say Roberts, asked Rahimi's lawyer, well, you have to admit, this guy's a pretty violent guy, right? And the lawyer was forced to admit that he was, that there were instances where he had clearly been violent. So he's not a sympathetic guy. And listen, there's a reason why Lady Justice in all the statutes has a blindfold on, right? Justice is supposed to be blind. That's the way our system is designed. Whether it's actually implemented and operates that way is a whole separate discussion. But the way the system's designed is that justice is supposed to be blind, and the legal issues in a case are supposed to be determined irrespective of the particular parties involved. The law is the law, and the law should be evenly and fairly applied irrespective of who the parties are. Factual issues obviously get determined based on the specifics of a case, including the nature and actions of any particular defendant. But legal issues are supposed to be completely fairly decided irrespective of and being blind to the individuals involved. Is that the way it necessarily works? Probably not, just because that's not the way human nature works. And judges can be influenced by the particular parties involved. I don't think there's any question about that. I think that's unavoidable to some degree. So what we could get out of that case is the judges may say, once there's a finding of dangerousness in the context of a domestic violence order of protection proceeding, that finding of dangerousness is what is constitutional in terms of the basis to deprive someone of their Second Amendment rights. And the test that they will use is the test determined by the Bruin decision that came down here a couple of years ago now, where the Bruin decision said that to be constitutional, the test now is based on text, history, and tradition. So you first look at the text of the Second Amendment. What does it mean? What does it say? And on that basis, you then look at whether the history and tradition of laws and regulation in this country are analogous to or similar to this particular law. In other words, have similar laws been upheld in the past? And you look at the particular time frames of the time of the founding, 1791, when the Second Amendment was ratified, and then secondly, at the time the 14th Amendment was ratified, in terms of the application of the Bill of Rights to the states. And you look at those two time frames, and the 14th Amendment was immediately post-Civil War. And you look at analogous statutes, analogous laws that were deemed appropriate and lawful and constitutional at that time. And if you can't find analogs for that, you can't find similar examples, then the history and tradition of regulation of the Second Amendment rights doesn't support the constitutionality of a law, and it'll be found to be unconstitutional. So what's interesting, though, and what we'll likely see in the Rahimi case, is how broadly or how narrowly will the justices say you have to find similar regulation that's been upheld historically and traditionally in this country, to the extent you're looking at text, history, and tradition. In other words, was there a law in 1791 that said if you're subject to a domestic violence order of protection, you can't possess a gun? No, of course there was not. But were there laws that said persons determined to be dangerous to society or dangerous to other people in particular, that those people could be denied their right to possess a gun, depending on how broadly or narrowly they're looking for similar laws, in particular analogs, historically, very much determine whether they say yes or no, that that's consistent. If they do that and they come out and say, well, the determination is not just that you've had an order entered against you, it's whether there's been a determination by a court that you're in fact dangerous. That determination could then be used very easily to support the argument that persons convicted of nonviolent felonies, where there's no requirement they be found to have been dangerous at all or have committed any violent act, to have been convicted of this nonviolent felony, that they shouldn't lose their Second Amendment rights. That's not the issue in the Rahimi case, because he wasn't convicted of any crime, violent or nonviolent. But that case, a person convicted of a nonviolent felony, is actually also before the Supreme Court right now in a much earlier stage. That's what we'll go into when we come back. Also take your calls, 317-239-9393. It's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
Do they still do mail and caramel?
Caramel, don't ever change.
I love the living statues that sit on the benches. They're awesome.
Yes, that's how people from Greenwood earn extra money. Oh, I'm going to get emails. What have I done? You know everybody here is just in debt and house poor up to their ass. Don't you laugh, Zionsville. You have it worse. $1.13 trillion of credit card debt. Half of that is on the west side of Carmel.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for junkviking.com. I'll tell you what, I'm a customer of these guys, and I'm a big fan of them. It's junkviking.com. These folks serve Hamilton County and surrounding areas. They will come and pick up anything from a single item to full house or even estate cleanouts. They've got great reviews on Facebook and Google. They'll come out and demolish and remove sheds or decks or play sets or hot tubs. If you need some junk hauled out of your house or off your property, you need to call my friends at Junk Viking. My wife and I had both an attic and a basement that we're looking at finishing. And to do that, we first needed to get rid of some junk. We called Junk Viking. They did a great job. These people are mostly veterans and police officers or retired police officers. So they're just a great group of guys to meet and do business with. Check them out at junkviking.com or give them a call, 317-349-3169. That's 317-349-3169. It's my friends. I'm a customer and a big fan of these guys at junkviking.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It is more important than ever to hire the right agent to sell your home to maximize its sales price. That is why I recommend Mark Dietl. Mark and his team have the plan and experience to sell your home fast for maximum cash. Maybe you're worried about costly repairs or upgrades to sell your home. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what Jim and Jean in Whitestown had to say about working with Mark Dietl. Our 18-acre horse farm was a lot to manage, and we were ready to downsize. But selling a horse farm is unique. It takes the right agent and the right buyer, so we hired Mark Dietl. Mark aggressively marketed the property and found the right buyer with a super quick close. Call the local Indianapolis agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietl, 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietl.com. That's Mark, Dietel.com.
Reason number 52 to choose Diamonds Direct over any other jeweler. Only Diamonds Direct gives you a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee. Let us explain. If you buy a diamond at Diamonds Direct today and decide in the future you want to upgrade to a larger diamond, Diamonds Direct will give you 110% of your original purchase price toward the new stone. For example, let's say you bought her a $5,000 diamond last year, but now she wants to upgrade to a $6,000 diamond. Diamonds Direct will give you $5,500 toward the new one. That's 10% more than you paid the first time. Guaranteed appreciation. Whether that first diamond was $3,000 or $30,000, you get 10% more. Who else does this? And unlike other stores who claim to offer diamond upgrades, at Diamonds Direct, there's no fine print and no minimum purchase requirement. It's 10% more, period. Come and discover real value and buy with confidence. Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion. Official jeweler of the Indianapolis Colts.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See the best in sporting, hunting, and personal protection gear, plus great displays of Americana. Come see us this weekend at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, Friday 2 to 7, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday 9 to 4. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See you there.
Indiana Pathways for Aging helps Hoosier Medicaid members age 60 and over get support at no additional cost to live life their way.
Mom's Parkinson's is progressing, and Pathways provides in-home support so she can be with family every day.
Pathways coordinates Medicaid and Medicare services. I'm getting help with meals, personal care, and transportation.
One day, I might choose a nursing home, but today, I have options with Pathways.
To learn more, eligible members call 87 Pathway 4 or visit in.gov/pathways.
Addiction. It's hard on those who struggle with it, but those who love the addict need support too. Matt Baer and Ryan Hedrick provide help and hope with Supporting Sobriety. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on WIBC.com. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I mentioned there's another case before the Supreme Court that bears more directly on the issue of President Trump being currently prohibited from possessing a firearm, as ridiculous as that sounds. And that's the Garland versus Range case. And Range is a guy in Pennsylvania who was convicted of lying on his application for food stamps about his income. Talk about a nonviolent crime. Lying about his income on an application for food stamps. But because the penalty for that particular crime exceeded 1 year, that meets the definition of being prohibited from possessing firearms. And here this guy's totally nonviolent, no other history of violence, no other criminal conviction involving violence, and so he's appealing. And that more squarely tees up the issue that would be relevant to a similar appeal by President Trump, which is, should you, can you, do you lose rights after being convicted of a nonviolent felony? Now, the answer, do you? Yes. That's currently the state of federal law. And listen, is that consistent with the history and tradition of regulation of gun rights, regulation of the Second Amendment in the United States? Again, looking at the time of the founding, looking at the time of the ratification of the 14th Amendment. And I think it's absolutely not. There's not this history of all these different subsections of the Brady Bill, of the amendments to the Gun Control Act that include all these different prohibitions, prohibiting you even when you're not violent, when you haven't hurt anybody, you haven't tried to hurt anybody. And that's where we're interested now. The Range case is sitting in conference, meaning that this court has not determined whether they're going to take it or not. And I think part of that is determined by what the language we get out of the Rahimi case, which we expect any time. But tell you what, we're coming up on the top of the hour. It's time to take a break. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WYBC.
Get out fast, get cash, sell your home in a flash. The IndieHomeBuyer.com. No inspection, no fuss. We only need to see it once. The IndieHomeBuyer.com. Problem properties, tenants don't pay. Just hand us some keys and your problems go away. Get out fast, get cash, sell your home in a flash. The IndieHomeBuyer.com. Get out fast, get cash, sell your home in a flash. The IndieHomeBuyer.com.
No matter your reason for selling, the IndieHomeBuyer.com will pay cash for your house in any condition. If you're dealing with deadbeat tenants, big repairs, or inheritance, the IndieHomeBuyer.com is the solution. No hassle, no inspections. The IndieHomeBuyer.com.
Get out fast, get cash, sell your home in a flash. The IndieHomeBuyer.com. Get out fast, get cash, sell your home in a flash. The IndieHomeBuyer.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Need air conditioning service and want to work with a local trained dealer you can trust, like Stevenson Heating and Cooling? Find that American Standard air dealer at IndieHomeComfort.com.
Don't stress about plumbing repairs. Call LD Smith for honest advice and a free second opinion on any estimate.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. Cancer screening tests can help keep the person you love around longer by detecting changes before cancer develops, or catch it early when it may be easier to treat. And many tests are available for free or are covered by insurance. It's time to sound like a broken record. Tell all your friends and family, I love you. Get screened. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
Housing discrimination because of race, color, or national origin is against the law. If you believe you've experienced housing discrimination, contact HUD at hud.gov/fairhousing.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News. 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Lawyers planning an appeal. I'm Roger Stern, Fox News. Lawyers for former President Donald Trump are writing their appeal over his hush money conviction in New York. Fox's Nate Boyd.
Former President Donald Trump promises to appeal, and here's how that will work. He'll have 30 days to do it after his sentencing hearing on July 11th. At Trump Tower, the former president criticized Judge Juan Merchan. He called Merchan a tyrant for imposing a gag order on him and refusing to allow the full testimony of former FEC Commissioner Brad Smith.
We're going to be appealing it on many different things. He wouldn't allow us to have witnesses. He wouldn't allow us to talk. He wouldn't allow us to do anything. The judge was a tyrant.
The deadline for post-trial motions is in under 2 weeks, but Trump's attorneys indicate one of their reasons for appeal is a perception of Merchan's bias.
Meanwhile, President Biden speaking out about the Trump conviction.
President Biden has tried not to comment on former President Trump's legal woes to avoid making it seem like he was putting his thumb on a scale. His remarks on Friday marked a shift in that strategy as he told Americans to trust the justice system.
The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed. Donald Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself. It was a state case, not a federal case, and it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict.
He didn't take questions, smiling and walking out the room instead after his speech.
Fox's Madeline Rivera in Washington. House Democrats have written a bill that would strip convicted felons of permanent Secret Service protection, a measure aimed squarely at former President Trump. Mississippi Democrat Benny Thompson saying that this is a good idea. America's listening to Fox News.
Interesting people are talking to Will Kane.
I said, what do I call you? I call you Dwayne. I call you The Rock. He said, now that I own it, I can call you The Rock.
Yes, I own it now. You can call me The Rock.
Our next guest needs no introduction. It is Dr. Jordan Peters, my old friend and frenemy, Stephen A. Smith.
What is going on here? I see the Will Kane show in the background. I see the microphone.
Watch it live at noon Eastern, Monday through Thursday on FoxNews.com. And get the podcast 5 days a week at FoxNewsPodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network, the Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, going far beyond the headlines, tapping into the massive reporting resources of Fox News to provide a full picture of the news of the day.
I'm Dana Perino.
I'm Brett Baer.
I'm Maria Bartiromo.
I'm Brian Kilmeade, and this is the Fox News Rundown.
Subscribe and listen now by going to FoxNewsPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Israeli Prime Minister
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
A woman found shot. I'm Wes Woodward, and here's what's trending this hour. Indy Metro Police found a woman shot dead inside a home on Indianapolis's northwest side Saturday morning. That was at a house on the 3000 block of Armory Lane near West 30th Street and North White River Parkway. Officers have detained a person of interest. IMPD also investigating after an officer exchanged gunfire with a suspect in downtown Indy early Saturday morning. Around 3:20 a.m., officers patrolling near Georgia and Meridian Streets heard gunshots and soon found a person, and after engaging that person in conversation, an officer fired their weapon. A short vehicle chase followed, eventually ending in a crash a short distance away on Northeast Street.
There was a firearm located at the scene, and those two suspects are detained at this time. We do not believe that there's ongoing threat to the community at this time.
That's Officer Tommy Thompson with IMPD. IMPD says no officers or suspects were injured in the shooting. John Herrick reports on how Charlie Brown's and Speedway touched the life of Hall of Fame motorsports journalist Robin Miller.
There's now a Robin Miller room inside Charlie Brown's. It was dedicated on Friday. Miller spent a lot of time in that restaurant, so they helped him out when times got tough.
And when Robin was very ill and in the hospital, they even sent him his favorite pie, his grilled cheese sandwich, and his Pepsi to the hospital.
Miller died in 2021 at the age of 71. Miller's sister Diane Zachary says while you eat in the Robin Miller room, there's all kinds of racing memorabilia in there for you to enjoy. John Herrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
I'm Wes Woodward, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's your forecast in the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, rain likely early on, still some light sprinkles lingering around through the early morning hours. And for Sunday, clouds will decrease, giving us some sunshine, but an isolated chance at a couple pop-up showers in the afternoon. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C, but most people don't know they are infected. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you can still have hepatitis C, a serious liver disease that often has no symptoms. In fact, people can live with hepatitis C for decades without feeling or looking sick. But over time, hepatitis C can cause serious health problems, including liver damage, liver failure, or even liver cancer. Getting tested is the only way to know if you're infected with hepatitis C. That's why the CDC recommends everyone born from 1945 to 1965 get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments are available that can cure this disease. So talk to your doctor about getting tested. It could save your life. A message from the CDC.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So another trial that I'm sure will have a lot of eyes on it, not nearly as many as were on the Trump trial in New York. But another trial that's going to get a lot of attention here starts Monday. It's supposed to start Monday, which is the trial of Hunter Biden, son of our beloved president, who's being tried on gun charges. And this involves another subsection of the same statute we've been talking about, this statute that defines a whole bunch of people who can't possess firearms, that make you, quote-unquote, prohibited possessors. If one of these subsections applies to you, well, the one involved in Hunter's case says you cannot possess a firearm if you're a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs. And that, in fact, is one of the questions you fill out when you go in to buy a gun in a gun store. And you fill out the ATF form. It's called a 4473. You fill that out, and it asks you questions like, have you been convicted of a crime punishable by more than 1 year? Well, that's what we're talking about with felonies. And a whole series of other questions. One of them is, are you a user of, addicted to any illegal drugs? And by the way, as of the last 3 years or so, there's a little notation after that that says this includes marijuana in those states where marijuana is legal. And why does it say that? Well, that's because marijuana is still an illegal drug at the federal level. If you go to the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, now, as stupid as this is, and I'm not a user of marijuana. I discovered in high school that marijuana and I don't get along. It makes me want to curl up in a fetal position and go to sleep and not talk to anybody. I'm as antisocial as I could possibly be. So it's not a personal matter of importance to me. But for a lot of people in this country, and including a lot of veterans, people that have chronic pain issues, people that have PTSD issues, marijuana can be a great benefit. But as ridiculous as this is, not only is marijuana illegal at the federal level, it's actually listed as a scheduled drug right up there with the worst drugs out there, the most addictive, the most harmful, with the least medicinal benefits, things like methamphetamine and cocaine. Marijuana is still listed right there with them. And there's been a lot of discussion. I think even the Biden administration has talked about decriminalizing marijuana at the federal level or reducing it to a lower scheduled drug it'd be like Tylenol with codeine or something. So it'd be easier to get prescriptions for that type thing. But it hasn't happened yet. But so if you're a user of or addicted to, it's alternative. User of or addicted to any illegal drug, you can't possess a firearm. So the trial of Hunter Biden, that is supposed to start Monday, involves a number of counts related to the fact that he went into a gun store in Delaware and he filled out the form that says, among other things, or that asks, among other things, are you addicted to or a user of any illegal drugs? And he said no. They then did the background check on him and released the gun to him. He left the gun store with the gun. Lying on that form, lying on that 4473 form is a federal felony. Good for 10 years in federal prison. Possession of a firearm as a prohibited possessor is also a federal felony. And you're a prohibited possessor if you're a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs. So buying the gun, possessing the gun, separate counts, also lying on the form, all relating to the fact that he was a user of and or addicted to illegal drugs at the time he bought the gun. How do we know that he is? What's the evidence on that issue that we expect to see in court? Well, his own book, his own interviews, his own texts, his own public admissions that for a substantial period of time he was addicted to cocaine and was a regular user of cocaine in exactly the time frame of when he bought the gun. So he clearly lied, according to the prosecutors, when he filled out this form and said he was not a user of or addicted to any illegal drug. And you've seen some of the interviews, I would guess. He's talking about, oh, yeah, he goes, I was so addicted at one point I was crawling through my carpet looking for any cocaine I might have dropped. And if it looked at all like it might be cocaine, I was sniffing it. And he goes, I probably sniffed a lot of Parmesan cheese that I dropped eating pizza. Ha ha. That entertaining interview. That's the exact time frame when he bought this gun. The judge has made some interesting rulings. That's really going to shape how we expect this trial to go. One is, and this is big for the prosecutors, is the judge ruled that the prosecutors do not have to prove that he used illegal drugs on the day of the purchase. Just that in the general time frame, before and after he bought the gun, he was using illegal drugs and or addicted to illegal drugs. That's big, because proving what he did or didn't do on that particular day, I'm sure would be dramatically more difficult than proving what he was doing generally in that time frame, particularly when he made so many public statements and he wrote a book and appeared on numerous TV interviews talking about being addicted during this exact same time frame. And by the way, I don't believe it's part of this trial, but the reports I read said at one point his girlfriend, significant other, I don't remember who exactly it was so concerned about his drug use and the fact that he'd bought this gun that she actually took it away from him, took it and threw it in a dumpster. Not a particularly responsible or safe way to dispose of a firearm. But his issues all relate to buying the gun, lying on the form, and then possessing the gun as someone who's addicted to drugs. Now, what's interesting there is some of the same legal arguments on what's constitutional or what's not, in terms of regulations of the Second Amendment, apply to, well, if someone is a general user of drugs and illegal drugs, but they've not done anything or been convicted of anything that makes them or has determined them to be dangerous or violent, should they be a prohibited possessor? Separate issue. But the issue of did he lie on the form, did he possess the gun as a prohibited possessor is what's likely to be determined at this criminal trial. It's supposed to start Monday. Another pretrial ruling the judges made, and this is fascinating. I'm sure you remember the infamous Hunter Biden laptop. And you remember how social media platforms were completely suppressing any discussion of the laptop when that story broke. And then when people started hearing more about it, there was this whole campaign to label it Russian disinformation. Remember that? And a whole lot of people said, oh, this is a fraud, this is a plant. There's no credibility to it. The things on the laptop were all disinformation planted by the Russians, among other theories. Well, the infamous Hunter Biden laptop is going to be an issue in his trial. Why? Because there are messages that he sent and received on that laptop that deal with his drug use in the time frame we're talking about. And the judge just last week in pretrial rulings said, yes, the prosecution can use the laptop to present that evidence, which are essentially admissions from him that he's using drugs in the relevant time frame. He also said, she also said, the defense can question the credibility, the validity, the reliability of the laptop itself. And isn't that fascinating? So here we've had this running debate, and I don't think there's really a debate anymore. I think the most ardent Biden family supporters have given up on this issue, saying that the Hunter Biden laptop is not legitimate and that it's somehow, again, Russian disinformation. I think they've given up on that pitch. But the reliability, the credibility of the Hunter Biden laptop to some significant degree is going to be litigated in this case. And isn't that fascinating? And we can see, very likely in my mind, again, will this be a fair trial in Delaware? Will people be biased in favor of Hunter Biden like they were biased against Trump in New York? Who knows? We'll have to see how that plays out. But in my mind, knowing what I know about the guy's drug use based on his public comments, based on what I know about the law in this area, did he commit the crimes he's being accused of? He certainly appears to be guilty of those exact crimes. Will that be the result in the case? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm fascinated to see how it bears out. For instance, the evidence on the reliability or validity of the actual Hunter Biden laptop. That gets interesting real fast. Right now, we're a little past the quarter hour. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and go to the phone lines. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. You can join the discussion, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Okay, so you ever go into Cracker Barrel and think,
who are the old-timey photos? That's a great question. They're just a stock of some Cracker Barrel warehouse where it's like, we have 93 photos of Maud from Santa Fe, New Mexico, sitting on a porch.
Right, store 78 needs something in the left wing. Ship it out.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the law offices of Guy Relford. You know, one thing we handle at the law office that we really enjoy doing are expungements of criminal convictions. You know, not all felony convictions, for instance, or misdemeanor convictions can be expunged, but an awful lot of them can. And for a lot of criminal convictions, we can actually restore your gun rights under both state and federal law. Something we do a lot of and we really enjoy doing. And you may likely be eligible depending on what is on your record. If you're interested in discussing that, want to discuss a potential expungement and the restoration of your gun rights, give us a call. Contact us through the website, which is relfordlaw.com, and phone number's right on there as well. You can email us. Just go to relfordlaw.com. We'd love to discuss the restoration of your rights if you've lost those due to something in your past. That's relfordlaw.com.
Mark Dietl is the only real estate expert I would trust with the sale of my home. How about Luke and Emma in Franklin? Here's what they had to say. We bought land and began building our new dream home, but then we had to sell our old place at the right price. The Mark Dietl team got us multiple offers in the first weekend and negotiated for us to stay while we completed our new place. It was stress-free and easy with Mark Dietl.
What separates Mark Dietl from the competition is the guarantee. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. That is the Mark Dietel guarantee. Pick your move date, no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. Call Mark Dietel today, 317-755-4232. He's the only agent we trust and recommend on the Hammer and Nigel show. You can also go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietel.com.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See the best in sporting, hunting, and personal protection gear, plus great displays of Americana. Come see us this weekend at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, Friday 2 to 7, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday 9 to 4. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See you there.
Reggie was a nurse for 16 years.
I had become very burnt out. I wasn't making good money.
Then it happened.
There was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students.
We see say for each other.
I see say because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Hey y'all, I'm Blake Shelton. Being from Oklahoma, I know a thing or two about natural disasters. Tornadoes are common where I'm from and have affected my life and the lives of people I care about. No matter where you live, be aware of the dangers in your area and have a plan. You can create an emergency kit, come up with an evacuation plan, and know where to seek shelter. You never know when a disaster may hit. These simple steps can help save a life. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
We're all different. 1 in 5 of us live with a mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Talk to someone you trust. Learn more at bringchangetimind.org.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So there's still more going on at the Supreme Court level, and we're expecting a decision not only in the Rahimi case, but also in the Cargill case. And I've talked about Cargill before, but Cargill, really, this has the potential. And who knows how broadly or narrowly the Supreme Court rules on any particular case. And they can, for instance, invalidate laws altogether. They can say, oh, no, this is just unconstitutional as applied to a particular defendant. They can issue rulings that not only deal with the issue at hand, but shed a lot of light, if not dispose of, even related issues. And so you never know quite how broadly or how narrowly the Supreme Court or any appellate court is going to rule. And that's absolutely true. And I think courts generally prefer to issue more narrow rulings. Gives them more flexibility in the future in related cases. But the Cargill case, it has at least the potential, if not likelihood, of having really widespread ramifications. And why do I say that? It's the bump stock case. And it has important ramifications, or it has a potential to have a lot to do, not only with ATF regulations, but how administrative agencies issue regulations, create regulations, enforce regulations much more broadly. And why do I say that? That the bump stock case, which is the Cargill case, has to do with the fact that after the Las Vegas shooting, again, a horrific shooting, the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, President Trump said, that's it, bump stocks are gone. I remember the news conference where he said it. And he basically told ATF, make bump stocks illegal. And listen, if you know me, if you listen to the Gun Guy show, you heard me talk about bump stocks, you know that I think bump stocks are stupid. I would never have a bump stock on one of my rifles. What's a bump stock? It's a stock, a stock you set against your shoulder that essentially allows the gun, as you fire the gun, it allows the gun to bounce off your shoulder or to bump off your shoulder. And if you just keep your trigger finger fixed in a fixed position, and as the gun bounces back and forth off your shoulder, that allows you to shoot the gun very quickly. And people that know what they're doing with one of these things, they can simulate automatic fire. It sounds a lot like a machine gun. The Las Vegas shooter reportedly used bump stocks on a couple of the guns that he had there in the hotel room that he used in this horrific shooting in Las Vegas. And that's why President Trump said, that's it, bump stocks are gone, and told the ATF to make them illegal. The ATF then went in and essentially issued a regulation, a rule, that changed the way it interpreted Congress's words in how to define a machine gun. And a machine gun is a gun that fires more than one round of ammunition by a single function of the trigger. So a machine gun, you pull the trigger, you keep it pulled, you just pull it one time, but keep the trigger pulled back, it'll continue to shoot. That's what makes it a machine gun. A semi-automatic firearm, you pull the trigger one time, you get one bullet that leaves the muzzle. Machine gun, you get more than one bullet per single function of the trigger. And the ATF essentially wrote a rule, a regulation that says, well, to the extent that bump stocks are kind of sort of like machine guns, that's good enough for us. They're machine guns. Which makes them illegal because the ATF, and in fact, this is a law passed by Congress. It's actually part of the Federal Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986, said any guns manufactured after 1986, any machine guns, could no longer be registered. And you have to register machine guns for them to be legal. So if it wasn't manufactured or imported before 1986, then it can't be registered anymore. And since you have to register a machine gun, possession of an unregistered machine gun being 10 years in federal prison, I made all machine guns after 1986, imported or manufactured, that is, illegal. That's why having a transferable machine gun is a big deal, because it's a machine gun that was registered prior to, I believe it's April of 1986. That's why they're worth a lot of money, because there's so few of them, and every year that goes by, there are fewer. And since bump stocks were a more recent invention, this change in the law made bump stocks completely illegal. Why do I say the Cargill decision has the potential to be really far-reaching? Because regulatory agencies, executive agencies at the federal level, across the board, doesn't matter whether you're talking about ATF or the IRS or the EPA, and this whole army of alphabet agencies. They've been making up their own laws, they've been making up their own regulations, many of which, including the bump stock ban, have the ability to put people in prison. And it was never the vision of our founders. The founders clearly had separation of powers as the fundamental principle behind this system of government. The legislative power, and this is right there, Article 1, in what we call the vesting clause, the legislative power, the power to pass laws, shall be vested in a Congress of the United States consisting of a Senate and a House of Representatives. That's the vision of our founders. And the idea that the executive agency, whose duty it is to enforce the laws, not make the laws, would have all these regulatory agencies running around making their own rules that can put people in prison. Not only making their own rules, but interpreting their own rules and then enforcing their rules. You got judge, jury, and executioner right there, all in one executive agency, making up their own rules, interpreting their own rules, and enforcing their own rules. That's legislative, judicial, and executive all in one branch of government. That's never what our founders envisioned. Now, what do we expect out of the Cargill case? I expect them to focus. It's not really even a Second Amendment case, even though it involves bump stocks. And they may reach into, are bump stocks protected by the Second Amendment? They would have to be determined to be commonly used for lawful purposes. I don't know. We can say that bump stocks are necessarily commonly used. Again, I think they're stupid. You come to my range with a bump stock on your rifle, even when they were legal, I'm going to make fun of you because you're sacrificing accuracy for rate of fire. So unless you're in the zombie apocalypse, I think that's a dumb decision. But that's not the issue. And however you feel about bump stocks, that's not the issue at all. It should a regulatory agency be able to change the law, change essentially the words of Congress in a way that can put people in prison. And I've handled bump stock cases. I've had them thrown out, but I've handled bump stock cases in federal court. Should executive agency be allowed to change the law written by Congress? And the answer to that is no. And that's what we're very hopeful we'll see out of the Cargill decision in the Supreme Court. But they also have the potential of going more broadly than that, because there's been a precedent in the Supreme Court. And I've hated this whole line of decisions. I've hated this area of the law because of how infuriated I am and how infuriated I think our founders would be about this fourth branch of government that sprung up, which is all these executive agencies that have incredible power. And by the way, talk about being inconsistent with a form of government. I mean, we're a representative democracy in the form of a republic where we elect our officials to do our bidding. Who did you ever vote for at the ATF? Who'd you ever vote for at the IRS or the EPA? They're not elected. They have no accountability to the people whatsoever. A lot of them are lifers. They know the incredible power that they have, and they're not accountable to the public in any way, shape, or form. You go back to the language of the Declaration of Independence. The governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Can the EPA put me in jail? Yes. Can the ATF put me in jail? Yes. Can they pass regulations and then enforce those same regulations that puts me in jail? Yes. When did the people consent to being governed in that way by an administrative agency, by voting for those people making up those rules or enforcing those rules? Where's consent of the government come from when none of these people are elected? There's no consent of the governed. And what makes the whole thing worse is a line of cases, a line of precedent that establishes what we call Chevron deference. You know what Chevron deference is? It comes out of a particular case, the Chevron case. At least where the Supreme Court said, well, you know, these executive agencies, they're experts in their areas, right? I mean, the EPA is expert on the environment, and ATF is experts on guns, which is laughable, by the way. If you've seen some of the people from ATF in confirmation hearings, for instance, not be able to answer very basic questions like, well, what makes a gun an assault weapon? They don't have any clue. They know they don't like them. They know they want to ban them, but they can't really tell you what the definition is. And I've sat in rooms with ATF agents that were not experts on anything related to firearms. Now, I'm sure they have some great agents out there, and I've met some really solid agents that knew what they were doing. But the whole idea behind these executive agencies is, well, they're experts in their area, and that's why we should We should give them the power that we do, and in fact, we should defer to them, and the courts should defer. That's where Chevron deference comes from. Courts should defer to the executive agency on interpreting their rules because they're the experts in that area. That's where deference comes from. So if they exceeded their authority, we're supposed to give deference. The courts are supposed to give deference even to their interpretation of the extent of their delegation of authority from Congress in the form of statutes that say, well, the executive agency shall do the following, that the breadth of their power, the executive agency should even be able to interpret that themselves, and the court should give deference to that interpretation of the breadth of their power. So they can write regulations, they can interpret them. The courts are not supposed to reinterpret them without deference to what the administrative agency says about that. The whole thing results in this incredible amount of power in these executive agencies that our founders never intended. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And it is a complete corruption of democracy in my mind. It's a complete corruption of the system of government that we have in this country. In terms of being a representative democracy in the form of a republic, that's exactly what our founders never wanted to have, is that much power located in one branch of government. That's what we have. The Cargill case may be as narrow and as simple as saying, in this particular case, the ATF's interpretation is wrong, it's incorrect, enough said. They could then go on to say much more about how broadly administrative agencies can act in interpreting the words of Congress. They may then go on to say, and I would love this, it's naive to even hope for this because the court will probably not issue a decision anywhere near this broad, but they could potentially go on to say, we're ending Chevron deference. We're not relying on that anymore. That's not a precedent we should have ever adopted, and it's time to let it go. I would love to see that. I don't expect it. I'm not predicting it. But it could potentially happen, which is something that makes a lot of us really anticipate the Cargill decision. Right now, we're way past the bottom of the hour, so it's time to take a break. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Former President Donald Trump was found guilty of falsifying business records and sitting again. He's an innocent man targeted politically.
93 WIBC.
Sentencing set for July 11th, vowing to appeal.
Another news update is minutes away.
Someone fired their gun on I-465 near Rockville Road, hitting a man.
On the level, on the go.
Southbound 465 shut down from I-72, I-65 on the southeast side for most of June.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
If you live in central Indiana, you probably use, work, or live near I-70 and I-65 within the I-465 loop. And chances are, you have an opinion on how those interstates could be improved. If so, Propel Indy wants to hear from you. Propel Indy is an opportunity for you to envision the future of Indy's urban interstates. Central Indiana is home to a world-class transportation system that links businesses, neighborhoods, and attractions together. But most interstates inside the I-465 loop were built more than 40 years ago and will need to be modernized for Indy's continued growth. With your feedback, Propel Indy will gain a greater understanding of community needs and ideas for improvement. Whether you live in a neighborhood near I-70, use I-65 for your daily commute, or attend events downtown, Propel Indy wants to hear from you. Share your ideas at propelindy.com. You can help propel Indy towards a more transformative tomorrow with a bold vision to modernize Indy's interstates and enhance the community for generations to come. Learn more at propelindy.com. The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. The best dealers in the region will be at the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds in Lafayette. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Absolute Comfort, your American Standard Mitsubishi electric ductless mini splits dealer.
Fox News, I'm Jack Callahan. There's been another pitch for peace in the Middle East.
Israel has offered a comprehensive new proposal. It's a roadmap to an enduring ceasefire and the release of all hostages.
President Biden at the White House yesterday urging Hamas to embrace the proposal, which calls for a 6-week ceasefire and a surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Former President Trump's allies railing against his guilty verdict in his business records trial this week.
Everyone knows we have a weaponized justice system, a weaponized government. The agencies that are supposed to serve we the people have been turned on we the people. That's the real problem.
GOP Congressman Jim Jordan on Fox Business. The former president's legal team already working on an appeal. Mr. Trump will make an appearance in Newark tonight. America is listening to Fox News.
A slow network is no network for business. That's why more choose Comcast Business. And now we're introducing Ultimate Speed for Business, our fastest plans yet. We're up to 12 times faster than Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And existing customers could even get up to triple the speeds at no additional cost. All from the company with 99.9% network reliability and advanced cybersecurity. It's Ultimate Speed from Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Don't miss out on our fastest speed plans yet. Get started with internet and security for $49 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract when you add one unlimited mobile line. Plus, ask how to get up to an $800 prepaid card with a qualifying gig bundle. Call 1-800-501-6000 or visit ComcastBusiness.com to switch today. In 62324, restrictions apply. New customers only with 300 megabits per second internet and security edge. EcoBell and autopay required. Equipment, tax, and fees extra. Compares Comcast Business 1.25 gig to 100 megabit per second 5G internet at Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Up to 3 times downloads for existing essential and standard customers.
JMV here. The Memorial Day sale at Miss M's Home and Garden continues. 20% off all container trees and shrubs at Miss M's. Now's a great time to redo the landscape at your home. And Miss M's has a great selection of nursery items to help. Need help figuring out how to redo the landscape? Let the friendly nursery staff help you with all your selections. Don't forget to check out the greenhouse for a great selection of summer annuals, hanging baskets, and more. Miss M's located on State Road 135 south of Whiteland Road in Bargersville.
We need each other because every someone needs someone else.
We need each other because when we work together, we can do so much more.
We connect more children with what they need to grow up healthy, educated, and safe. And that's what Child Fund is all about.
Because when you make someone's world better, you make everyone's world better.
Child Fund, because we need each other.
Learn more at childfund.org. That's childfund.org.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So a ruling we just got Thursday out of the U.S. Supreme Court is NRA versus Vullo, V-U-L-L-O. And this was a person, Maria Vullo, who was the head of the Department of Financial Services in the state of New York. And listen, the case really, in my mind, is an extension of something that happened under the under the Obama administration, which the Obama administration called Operation Choke Point. And Operation Choke Point, launched by the Obama administration, and there were congressional hearings on this, and there was a lot of discussion of this. And you can Google this. There's a lot of interesting information out there. But Operation Choke Point was essentially the Obama administration saying, there are businesses out there we don't like, and we're going to use the federal government's influence over financial institutions to shut down some of these businesses we don't like. And the two they were focused on, there were others as well, were payday loan type businesses and the firearms industry. And they said, you know what, if we go to the banking industry, the financial services industry, what, credit card processors and banks, credit unions, we could potentially put some of these businesses that we don't like out of business to the extent they can't take credit cards of their businesses. They can't have bank accounts. And it was a declared policy. And that flowed over to a lot of regulators at the state level as well. And that's exactly what happened in New York, because this head of the Department of Financial Services in New York decided that she really, really didn't like the NRA. The NRA being the grassroots gun rights organization that it is, this Maria Vullo said, you know what, I'm going to shut these people down. NRA had begun a program. Remember Carry Guard insurance? Like, for instance, I have USCCA, what we call carry insurance, where if I use my gun in self-defense, I have insurance in case I get prosecuted or sued that'll help me cover my legal fees. If I use my gun in self-defense or otherwise, but I'm then facing a potential prosecution or I'm facing a civil suit, then that insurance covers me for that. The NRA launched its own program, and there are several other programs like that out there. There's U.S. Law Shield, there's Texas Law Shield, there's Second Call Defense, there's Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. There are several of these insurance programs out there. I've had USCCA for a lot of years. But the NRA launched its own program called Carry Guard, and it was its own insurance program. And it was licensed through the state of New York to have this insurance program. Well, the state of New York decided they didn't like that. They decided they didn't like the NRA generally. And so this Maria Vullo, acting on behalf of the Department of Financial Services in New York, went to banks, went to credit unions, went to the insurance regulators, doing everything they could do, and that is the state of New York through the Department of Financial Services could do, to shut down the NRA in the state of New York, simply because they didn't like their politics. They didn't like their advocacy for Second Amendment rights. And so the NRA filed a lawsuit, and interestingly enough, it's the NRA, it's not a Second Amendment lawsuit, it's a First Amendment lawsuit, saying that because the regulators in the state of New York, in particular the Department of Financial Services, didn't like the message of the NRA, didn't like the advocacy of the NRA, things that NRA was protected in doing by the First Amendment, that the state of New York, through the Department of Financial Services, were trying to shut them down completely. And so they brought this lawsuit. Well, it went up ultimately on a motion to dismiss, because the New York Department of Financial Services, no, there's no such lawsuit. You can't sue government officials, state government officials, for any such thing. And I went up to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, the federal court, that agreed and said, nah, there's no such lawsuit. NRA is just out of luck. And agreed that the lawsuit should be dismissed. What just happened in the U.S. Supreme Court just on Thursday, in a 9-0 decision, 9-0, the Supreme Court of the United States, and in a decision authored by Justice Sotomayor, who's one of the most liberal justices we've ever had on the Supreme Court, in a 9-0 unanimous decision, the Supreme Court said, no, the government may not be weaponized, it's a term you're hearing a lot right now, against particular groups to deprive them of their First Amendment rights. And that's exactly what the allegation is in this case. This doesn't mean NRA wins the lawsuit. It means the lawsuit should not have been dismissed, and the NRA now should have the ability to put evidence on and try the case to prove their claims, which are they were severely damaged to the tunes of millions and millions and millions of dollars by a weaponized state regulatory agency that simply decided it didn't like the politics of the NRA. And the U.S. Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, said yes, the New York administrators, regulators, according to the allegations, if proven, denied the NRA their First Amendment rights. That's a spectacular decision, and a 9-0 decision at that, and it's going to be fascinating to watch that case go forward when it goes back now to the lower courts. We're a little past the 3/4 hour, taking a break. We'll be back for a very short segment to wrap up this week's edition of the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
Do they still do mail in Carmel?
Carmel, don't ever change.
I love the living statues that sit on the benches. They're awesome.
Yes, that's how people from Greenwood earn extra money. Oh, I'm going to get emails. What have I done? You know everybody here is just in debt and house poor up to their ass. Don't you laugh, Zionsville. You have it worse. $1.13 trillion of credit card debt. Half of that is on the west side of Carmel.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the law offices of Guy Relford. Again, one thing we really enjoy doing, we do a lot of at the law firm located there in Carmel, is expungements and restorations to restore people's gun rights. If you've lost your gun rights because of something on your record, give us a call, and we'd be glad to discuss whether we can help. We also handle NFA trusts. Those are trusts that are designed to hold NFA-regulated items like suppressors, or short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, other NFA-regulated firearms. If you decided you like to possess those firearms, if you already do, and you want to be able to share them with co-trustees and have multiple people be able to possess them, and to have a trust that handles what happens to those firearms when you're no longer with us. An NFA trust handles all those issues. We do those a lot, and we enjoy doing them. You can contact us through the website. It's just relfordlaw.com. Send us an email or give us a call. It's relfordlaw.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating, family-owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch-resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
Will you be the one? This summer, Shepherd Community will spend hundreds of hours with 200 kids, learning, adventuring, and experiencing life-transforming relationships. Help us make a difference for one child. For just $28, you can impact a child for one day at Shepherd. One moment, one relationship can make a difference in the life of a child. You can be the one. Visit shepherdcommunity.org/be the one to give today. That's shepherdcommunity.org/be the one.
Nobody cares for you like family. Family Heating and Air.
All right, this is Malia with Family Heating and Air, and as a mom myself, I know it's really important to keep the kiddos healthy. Air quality, humidity, those are super big issues on my concern list. If you share any of these concerns, give family a call, 317-577-8077.
Family Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
My husband, Bob, has Parkinson's, and he needs more help now, and I need more support to help him. Thanks to Indiana Pathways for Aging, we're getting the support we need to help him right here at home, like with meal prep and basic personal care, and even respite support for me.
Pathways provides Who's Your Medicaid members age 60 and over support for care their way, so they can live life their way. To learn more, eligible members call 87 Pathway 4 or visit in.gov/pathways.
If your wedding anniversary is approaching, that means a visit to Barrington Jewels in Clearwater Crossing. You must see the truly one-of-a-kind creations at Barrington. You'll find exquisite and unique anniversary bands at great prices and with special financing available. Save time and effort and shop Barrington Jewels first. Consider upgrading her diamond, a truly special way to show your love. Plus, Swiss and German brand sport watches. Don't wait. Get to Barrington Jewels today. And remember, you haven't seen a diamond until you've seen a Barrington diamond.
Never miss your favorite shows on WIBC. Get your content to go. Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, Hammer and Nigel, Tony Kennett, The Gun Guy, Home and Garden. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for what is going to be a very short segment here to wrap up this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you come back. I do want to talk just briefly here as we're wrapping the show up about the class I taught today out at Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range. Great to be out there. Their lead instructor out there, Kevin Mueller, is a friend of mine, and thanks to him for organizing that. But this was a great group because it was primarily the members of the Armed Women of America. So it was really a closed class for that group. They could bring their husbands, significant others, but primarily it was Armed Women of America. And what I loved about this class and what I loved about this group is these people decided that not only they want to join a very pro-2A organization like that, but they also wanted to have a complete understanding of the laws associated with owning a gun, using a gun. For instance, we spend a lot of time talking about the justified use of force in self-defense, when you can pull a gun, when you can point a gun at someone, when you can use deadly force to defend yourself or others. Well, those are exactly the kind of cases I handle in real life, and we went into a lot of detail how to avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon or intimidation with a deadly weapon, or a crime we have here in Indiana called pointing a firearm. People talk about brandishing. Well, we don't have a crime in Indiana called brandishing. But we have pointing a firearm, we have intimidation with a deadly weapon, which are very close. So a lot of those things, but again, big shout out. People took Saturday morning, devoted their time and a little bit of money to come out, and I'm really glad they did. I'm going to continue to offer that class, and I'll talk more about it here on The Gun Guy Show. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed this week's show. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Hey, Pat Sullivan here, letting you know that Hope Plumbing is bringing back an amazing offer. For a limited time, Hope Plumbing will buy back your old water heater for $1,000 with the installation of a tankless water heater. So if having endless hot showers and saving money on your gas bill is on your summer to-do list, call my friends at Hope Plumbing and get your tankless water heater installed today. HopePlumbing.com.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show.